You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves Country with Mac Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and YouTube.com at Braves Country. Braves Country today. We're talking Southern sports. We go live 3 to 5 weekdays right here on WQEE. Braves Country today, Southern sports talk with the voice of Braves Country baseball, Mac Magee. Joined every day from sports analysts from all over Braves Country, talking college football, the NFL, Major League Baseball, and what's trending in the world of sports. Braves Country today. We go live 3 to 5 weekdays right here on WQEE.
It all starts with just one thing. Glass jars can be reused to store food and spices, as a holder for combs and brushes in the bathroom, or as a container for plants and homemade candles, in addition to simply being recycled. Find tips and more at onethingus.com.
Hey folks, this is Mark White with The Mark White Show, and you can tune into The Mark White Show every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. right here on Rock 99, WQEE The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk.
I'm Amy Lawrence, and I'm up late, always, after hours, hanging out with you on CBS Sports Radio. Check it out, 2 a.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific.
Enjoy sun-drenched days, epic stays, and plenty of room to roam in Greater Fort Lauderdale. Our hotels, attractions, and restaurants have taken the Visit Lauderdale's Safe and Clean pledge, so you can relax and explore with confidence. When you're ready for that well-deserved staycation, our 23 miles of golden beaches await. Find wide-open spaces to hike, bike, kayak, and paddleboard. Visit your favorite attractions, then dine out in style in dining rooms or al fresco on waterfront patios. Learn more at sunny.org.
Braves Country today. We're talking Southern sports. We go live 3 to 5 weekdays right here on WQEE. Braves Country today, Southern sports talk with the voice of Braves Country baseball, Mac Magee. Joined every day from sports analysts from all over Braves Country, talking college football, the NFL, Major League Baseball, and what's trending in the world of sports. Braves Country today. We go live 3 to 5 weekdays right here on WQEE. Armchair Quarterback Radio is AFC South Country, all NFL season long.
They hand it off Fournette. He's driving, but he's in for the touchdown. Wow!
Drive starts at the 1 and looking for a little breathing room, and they get that and plenty more. Derrick Henry still going. Stays in bounds. He might go. 99 yards for the touchdown. Unbelievable. 2nd and 10. Empty set. Walk downfield, and that is Hilton again. Post and goal. Ebron, what a year for him. Eric Ebron, touchdown Colts. Slant, caught, touchdown. Marquise Lee, and he punts the ball into the stands. Deep, and he's got it. Keelan Cole, touchdown Jacksonville.
Stay locked in to the AFC South on Armchair Quarterback Radio.
Here's good news. There's still a need for hundreds of thousands of cybersecurity professionals in the U.S. right now. And My Computer Career is training people to help meet the demand. No IT experience? No problem. Take the free career evaluation today. Start your new life as an IT pro in as little as 4 months. Grants covering up to 53% of the cost are available to those who qualify. It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles veneer special includes 1 free veneer with every 5 purchased. Or get that bright white smile you've always wanted by taking advantage of an exclusive $100 off Zoom whitening treatment when you book today. And don't forget that 2022 is almost over. That means most insurance policies will reset by the new year, and to avoid losing that extra money, you need to use it or lose it. Book an appointment today with Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton to lock in these exclusive deals. Call 706-623-0318 or visit mostvaluablesmiles.com.
Hey, sports fans, it's Rod Peterson here, host of The Rod Peterson Show, inviting you to join us daily for 2 hours of Atlanta's funnest sports talk right here on WQEE. I say fun because it is. You've never heard a show like it because we make the listeners a part of the show every day between noon and 2 p.m. Eastern. You'll hear plenty of the best sports talk, including the latest on the Falcons, the Braves, and more. And who knows, you might even hear you. That's The Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon, right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
Hey, Braves Country! Braves Country HD is bringing you Braves Country Baseball. Braves Country comes to you every Tuesday night and Friday night, and 2 bonus games every week. Hi, I'm Mac Magee, and we'll be bringing you play-by-play, pitch-by-pitch of your Atlanta Braves. It's free to listen. Please like and subscribe. YouTube.com/@Braves Country. Braves Country Baseball for the fans, by the fans.
It all starts with just one thing. When recycling, rinse out jars and cans, and avoid recycling wax paper or paper soiled with food. This will reduce recycling contamination. Find tips and more at onethingus.com. What's your one thing?
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Fridays, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
We're talking Southern sports. We go live 3 to 5 weekdays right here on WQEE. Braves Country Today, Southern Sports Talk with the voice of Braves Country Baseball, Mac Magee. Joined every day from sports analysts from all over Braves Country, talking college football, the NFL, Major League Baseball, and what's trending in the world of sports. Braves Country Today, we go live 3 to 5 weekdays right here on WQEE. You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves Country with Mac Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and YouTube.com/Braves Country.
Armchair. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good afternoon, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. Good Monday afternoon as we take a look at the standings in Major League Baseball heading into about 2 weeks before the MLB trading deadline. We'll start in the National League East, where your Atlanta Braves have a commanding 9.5 game lead over the Miami Marlins, followed by the Philadelphia Phillies, 10.5 back. They won 3 of 4 this weekend versus San Diego, gaining a little ground on the Braves. Mets remain 18.5 back. Nationals, 24.5. National League Central, Milwaukee Brewers have a 2-game lead over the Reds after sweeping them on the weekend. And in the NL West, they're going 3 wide into the corner. Dodgers lead the division with 53 wins, followed by the San Francisco Giants, a 1.5 game out. Arizona, 2 back. In the American League, starting in the East, Tampa Bay has a 1-game lead over the Baltimore Orioles, 6 over the Blue Jays. Yanks and Sox are 9 games back. AL Central, Twins, 2.5 game lead over the Guardians, 6 over the Tigers. And in the AL West, Rangers, 55-39 on the year. They're 3 games up on Houston, 8 on Seattle, LA 9 out. Look at the wild card standings, as this will have a lot to do with the movers and shakers, the buyers and sellers in the next 2 weeks. In the National League wild card standings, San Francisco Giants and Miami Marlins are tied atop the standings for the 1 and 2 slots in the wild card race. The third and final slot is held by Arizona, who has just a half-game lead over the Philadelphia Phillies, 2 in front of the Reds. Padres, Cubs, and Mets are 8 and 8.5 back. In the American League, Baltimore Orioles sit atop the wild card standings, while the Toronto Blue Jays are 5 behind in the number 2 slot. Houston is a game back of that, grabbing the final slot in the wild card standings for the American League, 6 back of Baltimore. On the outside looking in, Red Sox 2 back, Yankees 2 back, Mariners 5, Angels 6, Guardians 6.5. Braves are taking the day off. We'll be back in action tomorrow night, pitch-by-pitch, play-by-play of your Atlanta Braves, right here on Braves Country HD. 7:20, the series begins against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Rest of Major League Baseball, you got a decent slate for a Monday. 7:45, Marlins are at the Cardinals. Luzardo versus Mikolas. It's a pick'em on the money line, over under 8.5. 8:05 first pitch. The Nats are at the Cubs. Gore versus Smiley. Chicago minus 145. Dodgers are at the Orioles. Should be a heck of a showdown and a possible World Series preview. It's Sheehan versus Grayson Rodriguez, who is back up from the minors. He's 2-2 with a 7.35 ERA, but has been firing it lights out with a 1.69 in AAA since being demoted in early May. Guardians are at the Pirates. Curry versus Priester. Quinn Priester making his major league debut. Giants are at the Reds. Logan Webb Day. San Fran minus 145 going up against Williamson. Rays are at the Rangers. 8:05 first pitch. McClanahan versus Dunning. Tampa Bay minus 125 on the money line. Tigers at the Royals. Manning versus Lyles. Detroit minus 130. The Yankees head out to Tinseltown. A 9:38 late first pitch on the West Coast. Severino versus Griffin Canning. Red Sox are at the A's at 9:40. Twins are at the Mariners. Sonny Gray versus Logan Gilbert. Over under is 7. Seattle minus 135 on the money line. And in case you missed it over the weekend, NFL news, DeAndre Hopkins agrees to a 2-year deal with the Tennessee Titans. And the Jacksonville Jaguars reach a 3-year deal with Evan Ingram, the tight end, who they had franchised. Joe Mixon restructures his deal to stay with the Bengals. Defensive lineman Malik Jackson, who spent 4 years with the Denver Broncos and 10 years altogether in the National Football League, he announced his retirement on the NFL Network this morning. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for Braves Country right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, simulcasting on youtube.com at Braves Country.
Armchair.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
Why did you get so drunk?
You got drunk. I'm just really exhausted.
What's in that cup?
Almond Cokes.
Do you have any idea how important this is? We're trying to save the pump. Really? This is what you're doing?
Chief, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night. Try to take over the world.
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Armchair. YouTube Live.
Radio station.
The radio station you can call your own. Do you know what listeners like about our station?
I like everything. It's always on my radio.
We never stop the music, except for now, when I talk.
Listening to Braves Country with Mac Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We're here live weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key and simulcasting on youtube.com/@BravesCountry. Your first choice for Southern sports. Good afternoon. I'm Mac Magee. I don't know much, but I know one thing. We are 2 weeks away from the trading deadline and about 6 weeks away from college football. Does it get any better than this, Braves country? Let's go.
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man.
Yeah, howdy, hi, and how the hell are you? Wyatt, I'm rolling. Now, I'll tell you one thing. I'm a little ticked off about what happened over the weekend. A little disappointed. Well, that's an understatement. Very disappointed if we couldn't beat the lowly White Sox. But the Braves are, as you can see, let me adjust the screen here for a second. As you can see, the Braves are atop Major League Baseball with the best record in all of baseball, and heading our way starting tomorrow is the Arizona Diamondbacks. They are 10 back of the Atlanta Braves, so the best record in all of baseball. They've been scuffling a little bit. They've lost 8 of their last 10, so they're going to come in swinging. And they had a tough weekend up in Toronto. Lord, we know what that's like. So that's what we're going to be looking at for the next few days. And we'll get more into the Arizona series tomorrow. Today, we have a chance to get into what's going on with the Braves. And of course, with that, what is going on with the trading deadline and what we can expect. Now, one of the things that you can look at, this was talked about a lot during the game yesterday. I didn't have a chance to really chime in. I was busy trying to do some stuff on the production end of Braves country, so I didn't get really a chance to comment too much. But the short of it is Max Fried pitched Saturday, and he threw 3 innings of shutout baseball. This was in high A room. You expect him to dominate there. If he went there and got shelled, you'd be a little concerned. Because he was so efficient, I think he threw like 30 pitches. I want to say it was 23 strikes and 7 balls. Because he was so efficient, they had him finish his outing in the bullpen. So with that being said, he was able to stretch himself out just a little bit more, right? A little bit more. Yesterday, Colby Allard got shelled. Then they take him out with one of these. I think most people will agree at this point. We're at this stage where we kind of roll our eyes when they talk about some of these minor injuries, because what it's really happening is the guy's getting bombed and they're trying to get him out of harm's way and trying to help some ego. And you kind of expect a move to be made there very shortly. With all that being said, by the way, Ronald Acuna Jr. is still, even with this bad weekend, he is still the odds-on favorite by a landslide to win the MVP in the National League. I really hope that he stays healthy and continues to have a very good season, because the kid deserves it. And all that he went through coming back from the ACL tear, it still bothers him. I've seen this in many, and I know it's normally through an interpreter, but he has talked about this through many accounts, that though, yes, he technically got a World Series ring, it bothers him that he did not go to the post and was able to participate for that Braves World Series run. And you can tell he's focused on that. I know a lot of folks may think that he's just out there trying to gobble up stolen bases and whatnot to get the MVP. I'm all for it. Go after that MVP. Let's put it in the bag and let's have it secured with about 3 weeks into September, 1 or 2 weeks left in the season. And then he can chill out for a bit, maybe play sparingly down the stretch, and then let's get ready. That final weekend, by the way, is against the Nationals, assuming everything's locked up. What you can probably expect is you'll get guys playing Friday night, playing probably about half the game on Saturday, and then they'll pull them. And it really depends on where we are in the standings on whether or not we'll be doing those games or not. Regardless, we'll put the chat up, but it really depends on that because we might have other things going on with college football kicking off and whatnot. So here's hoping that last weekend's a moot point and we're not chasing anything down, including the best record in baseball, because the Braves have their eyes on the prize. And right now we are sitting there, just 3 games in front of the Tampa Bay Rays. Now you see the 3 and you're like, man, it's getting a little close, getting a little hairy. Realize something on this, though technically it's 3. I always look at, when it comes to Major League Baseball standings particularly, I always look at the loss column, because when you're looking at the loss column in this circumstance, we're 5 games in front of Tampa Bay. We're also going to have the tiebreaker, which was huge. Remember that? How big that was? We won that series. So we have a 5-game lead over Tampa Bay. We have a we have a 5-game lead over Tampa Bay. We have a 6-game lead over the Baltimore Orioles. And how about them, man? They have absolutely snuck up on the Tampa Bay Rays. They're only a game behind. And remember that incredible start that Tampa Bay was off to. Tampa Bay is still going to make the playoffs, but I'm not positive that they're going to be able to stretch out and beat Baltimore in that division. And then you got a couple of the others creeping up behind him. You see Toronto not too far back. Red Sox and Yankees, they're like 9 out. I seriously doubt that they're going to make a serious run at the division, but they're still right there in the wild card. The other key factor is, remember the Atlanta Braves against Baltimore, they won 2 of 3 there as well. So all in all, the Braves are sitting pretty, but you got to get back on track. You got to get back from losing that first series in we'd won 11 series in a row. We're going for number 12. Win the first one, blow them out 9-0. And then let's be honest, the Saturday night loss, and we talked about this in the series preview on Friday, the Saturday night loss was the one that I believe lost us the series, because I felt like that Friday was a bit of a toss-up, but Charlie Morton pitched outstanding. And the Braves bats came alive. And I also felt like that Sunday we were going to be up against it, because folks can get mad about this, and that. Dylan Cease is a very good starting pitcher. He's elite. When they talk about him possibly being a part of a trade package, I say signs point to no, because they still have control for him for a couple more years. And you would have to give up a lot to get Cease. But Cease is a very good pitcher. And he went out there and shut down a Braves team that, look, you probably have a little bit of a hangover of the All-Star break coming into effect, and the fact that it's human nature to get a little complacent. But it's time to ramp it back up. The game they lost with Colby Aller getting bombed and Michael Soroka getting pushed around, I don't look at that as what lost us the series. What lost us the series was Spencer Strider not stepping up big in a moment that you need him to. You need him to go out there and outpitch Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn has had his moments over the years. I get it. But he came in with an ERA north of 6. The Braves did put 5 runs on the board. 5 runs on the board, you kind of expect the Braves to win that one. Instead, Strider goes out 6 innings, 5 earned runs. Yeah, he got his 10 strikeouts, but that doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot when you give up 5 earned runs. The other thing is, end of the game, we've got runners on the corners 1 out, and Sean Murphy hits into a double play. And I'm not going to kill a guy for one double play. It's 162 games, whatever. But it's more of the fact that and I've talked about this in the past. If you're going to live and die by the sword, that's exactly what's going to happen, because when you have Sean Murphy and Matt Olson back to back, and they follow up Austin Riley, so it's back to back to back, really slow runners. Now, Riley has a little better wheels than the other two, but it's not like he's lights out speed. So the biggest question to me is, do you want to continue to put Olsen at the 4 slot and Murphy at the 5 slot, or do you want to bust that up a little bit? You want to put someone, not with blazing speed, with just a little more speed to hopefully stay out of that double play situation. And I believe Ozuna has worked his way to where he should be sitting there to be able to just bust that up. Ozuna's got a little more speed. Now, it's not great speed. We know that. But I don't necessarily want to put Michael Harris there, because Michael Harris doesn't really give you the big bop. Harris had a good game yesterday. That was the only thing that came positively out of it, is he was my pick to click, and he did get a couple of hits. But Harris, I still believe, belongs at the bottom of the order when everything is equal. When you look at everything else going on with the Atlanta Braves, and the fact that Eddie Rosario came out of the game on Saturday, they said hamstring tightness. Let's call a spade a spade. Eddie Rosario had 2 incredibly awful defensive plays. One of them was lack of effort. The other one, it was just a bad defensive play. He's not a great defensive player. He's okay in the outfield, but he's just not great. And the first one was a lack of effort. I felt like he just kind of swatted at the ball. The second one got on him in a hurry, and he's got it. It's kind of funny because it happened later in the game with the White Sox, and the White Sox defender out in left field actually played the ball perfectly. It's very similar to the one that hopped underneath Rosario's glove. We go over this in Little League. Knock the damn ball down. Make sure it doesn't get behind you. In Little League, that ball came at Eddie. The number one thing he needed to do was to get in front of it. Knock it down. If you got to play hockey goalie, knock it down with your chest. But that ball rolls behind you, you're not playing shortstop, okay? Where there's defensive backup. The only thing's backing up Eddie Rosario is the wall. Other than momentum slowing it down, or Michael Harris having to run a country mile to go get the ball. So we go over this in absolute, I mean, it's absurd. Little League. I can remember getting screamed at in Little League, knock the damn ball down. What are you, scared of it? Just a bruise. And I was getting paid a little less than what Eddie Rosario is getting paid. I'm just putting it out there. That come on. I can't go with this. Oh, he had hamstring tightness. Oh, well, that explains it. No, it doesn't. There was actually 3 Braves writers in lockstep on Twitter that night saying, well, this really explains a lot to understand no. The ball went under his glove, had nothing to do with the hamstring. The other one, he just kind of swatted at. I don't know what he was doing. I don't know if he was playing pickleball. I don't know what he was doing. So the first one, lack of effort. The second one, lack of execution. I'm not going to say lack of talent because Eddie Rosario is very talented, but good Lord, just knock that damn ball down. And all this goes in, and I don't care what the official score says, at least one of those was an unearned run. You look at the official score, oh, no errors. Horse manure. You look at the official scoring, and I'm like, really? We don't get one error in that. If nothing else, you give him an error because the batter was able to move from first to second. Whether the runs would have scored or not, you can argue into the night about that. But it should have been a single E8. Really? What are we doing here? What are we doing? If that's not an error, what game are we playing? Because it's not Major League Baseball. All right, and rant on that. I could go on for days about that. I said to myself before the show started, I'm not going to make a big deal about it. And then you just think about it, and you're like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And then the official score, that guy or gal, whoever it is, just needs to go ahead and lock up their briefcase and walk out and go, I really don't understand baseball. I shouldn't be doing this job. All right. The other key to the whole thing is, look, Sunday just felt like they were punting the game. So we needed to win Saturday. That made that game even more important. We needed to win that game. But anyways, spit the bit, ran out there, Colby Allard. Look, these teardrop breaking pitches are going to catch you off guard the first couple of times you see him. But now there's tape on him, and that's why he's getting smashed. Also, remember something. When we were so impressed by Allard's start, it was against the Minnesota Twins, who, though they are at the top of the AL Central, their offense is at the bottom of the league. So you can't be impressed by Allard. I still think there's a path for him to stay on this team long-term because you can have him come out of the bullpen, a lefty. I don't necessarily know if I love him in high leverage situation, but I'm talking about sixth inning type situations. Down the stretch we come. I don't know if he's going to pull it together enough to be able to be on the postseason squad, but I'm talking about there is a path for him to stay on the squad. Now, Michael Soroka, he once again got thumped. And I don't know what this is about Soroka. It's almost like it almost makes you feel like some of these politicians that get wrapped in bubble wrap and nobody wants to offend, right? Michael Soroka has not been good. He's been okay, but this team is much better than deserving of okay anywhere near the starting rotation. Granted, he came in to fill in. It wasn't his start. But that just tells me a couple things. A, the Max Fried situation. Pitching. 3 innings in the game, then stretched them out after the game, which no one gave an official report, but I'm thinking another couple innings. That would get him to 5. That means his next time scheduled to go to the bump, he could be in an Atlanta Braves uniform and not down in high A Rome or wherever they decide to put him next. We might have to deal with one more start, but we could get Max Fried this weekend in Milwaukee. I doubt they would rush him out to Thursday's game against Arizona. It would line up Saturday to Thursday. You would have the 5 games in between, or 5 days in between, to have a normal rest, a normal start. But when we talk about trade deadlines, that's the biggest acquisition we can get, is get Max Fried back. So however they decide to do it, I'm going to trust in them. They don't want to rush him when you got a huge lead like we have. The last thing you want to do is go, well, we got to rush him back out there. Then he pops something or strains something, and then here we go again. So however they want to do that, I trust them. If they want to bring him up and they say we're only expecting 4 innings out of him, so be it. Then that's when someone else is going to have to spell the rest of it. Michael Soroka, I believe, is going to be a big part of the next couple of weeks. We got to take a quick break. I'm late on that. When we come back, I'll explain to you what I mean by that and some of the targets we can bring into the Braves to win this championship, because this is no longer feeling like this is a great year. This feels like you are all in. It is World Series championship or bust. Bare minimum, you better give me a pennant. Who's with me, Braves Country? We'll be back in a flash here on Braves Country HD and 99.1 FM. Keep it locked in.
Well, the season's finally here, and the players hit.
The Armchair Quarterbacks are back. Saturday, September 9th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You'll be tailgating with the Armchair Quarterbacks. Mac Magee, Brian Snow, Joey and Tones, and the rest of the Armchair Quarterbacks live 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Saturdays this fall. Talking college football, SEC, ACC, Big Ten, the NFL, fantasy football advice, and our picks against the spread. It all begins September 9th right here on Braves Country HD 99.1 FM WQEE.
Yeah, the Armchair Quarterback, the All-American man.
It's summertime, and that means the return of all the fun and excitement of Chattahoochee baseball at historic Golden Park. Bring the whole family down for a night of fun. Tickets start as low as $10 with a discount for kids, seniors, and active military. Or celebrate a special night at the park with a group package or suite night. For game dates and more, visit GoHoots.com. That's GoHoots.com.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles veneer special includes one free veneer with every 5 purchased. Or get that bright white smile you've always wanted by taking advantage of an exclusive $100 off Zoom whitening treatment when you book today. And don't forget that 2022 is almost over. That means most insurance policies will reset by the new year, and to avoid losing that extra money, you need to use it or lose it. Book an appointment today with Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton to lock in these exclusive deals. Call 706-623-0318 or visit mostvaluablesmiles.com.
And here's for helping me install a much needed and much appreciated garbage disposal in my bathtub.
Ah. You have a garbage disposal in your bathtub?
Oh, yeah, and I use it all the time. Yeah, I made this whole meal in there.
This food was in the shower with you?
Mm-hmm. I prepared it as I bathed.
Welcome back. Trying to get my blood pressure down a little bit. I might have lost my cool there last segment. If you're just joining us, everything's hunky-dory, and we did a little Bible study segment before, so now we're going to ramp it up a little bit. All right. Let's go ahead and get into, look, trade deadline is here. It's 2 weeks away, and now you're sitting there talking about who are going to be the buyers and who are going to be the sellers. First of all, I did want to mention something real quick. There was an article out today talking about, and we're not going to go through all 30 teams, but talking about the Major League Baseball draft and what player you can expect to get there first for your team and for the Braves. And to me, this is just a good sign. Either that or the guy didn't do a lot of homework. So take it for what it's worth. But with the Braves, they stuck with Hurston Waldrop. If you missed that, he was our first-round pick, right-handed pitcher at a University of Florida. Supposedly has elite-type stuff, mid-90s, fastball, has 3 really good pitches right now in his repertoire, is the stuff that I've read about. Haven't had a chance to watch him much. I am planning on trying to, first of all, catch him whenever he hits the minors, but I want to go back and watch some of his bigger games in college, just give you an idea. The problem is when you watch them in college, watch these guys in college, they're going against an aluminum bat, so it's really difficult to gauge that. And but anyways, I thought it was interesting that they're saying Waldrop could have that same trajectory. Remember, Strider and Elder were drafted in 2020, and by 2023 they're in the All-Star game. By 2022 they were a heavy part of our team. So if you do the math, they're saying that basically by 2026 we could be talking about these guys being, 2025, these guys could be somewhere near, or the Waldrop specifically could be somewhere near the rotation. There's been talk about him possibly going into the bullpen, them trying to teach him to do the bullpen to get him here quicker. The problem with that is he has had some control issues that I have seen. Now, like I said, I haven't done a deep dive with the video. I'm planning on doing that when some time slows down for me. But if you're having a big time problem with your control, which is why he fell to number 24, and it's just sporadic. It's not like one of these things. It's not like Rick Ankiel where he's slapping the back of the backstop, 70 feet off the plate. But what I'm saying is, if you're worried about a guy losing his control, it's kind of hard to get him to gain that quickly off the bullpen. You kind of have to start him off as a starter. So that's what I expect them to do. By the way, I did not pay attention to the entire draft to only worry about what the Braves are doing. But I will say this, from the guys that I did see, the guys that I did watch, the Cincinnati Reds got an absolute steal because they picked about halfway down through I want to say the fifth, sixth pick, something like that. And they got the guy that they were talking about could be the number 1 or number 2 pick, and Rhett Lauder, the right-hander from Wake Forest. I cannot believe that the A's, the Twins, and who was the other team? Texas, Detroit, the Nationals, they all passed on them. All went for outfielders and whatnot. What? There's no way. Pitching wins baseball games. And that kid's got it. Skeens went number 1 overall to Pittsburgh. No shock there if you watched him pitch. But you're trying to tell me that 5 teams passed on, five teams that could desperately need starting pitching, and they passed on him? What are they doing? And so this is when people say stuff like the Tigers are tigering, or the A's are going to be the A's. This is what they're talking about. You let Cincinnati snatch them, and Cincinnati's building a squad. That absolutely dumbfounded me. But anyways, into the trade market and what we can expect. Now, when we're looking at what the Atlanta Braves are going to be needing, obviously, to me, number 1 with a bullet is relief pitching. I know that is no shock to anybody. Let me see if I can. By the way, I tried to read some of the comments on Braves Country HD during the break, but I'm also the producer, so it's a little hard. But I was cracking up on some of them. But yeah, Baltimore plays the Dodgers this week, so yeah, that's probably the early part of the week. That's probably the big series of the week. But back to what the Braves need. Obviously, it's reliever number 1. This is assuming Max Fried's okay. I mean, what if we get some report in the next couple of days that, oh, he's having a setback, blah, blah, blah. We better get a starter. And the thing with Kyle Wright, to me at this point, they're saying they have his timeline now closer to September. We were hearing for the longest time middle of August, which would be possible if he started a rehab assignment this past weekend, essentially. Started a throwing program to get to the rehab assignment. Excuse me. He has not done that. He's been throwing long toss, short toss, all kinds of stuff. But he has not gone out there and actually started to play to throw the simulated games. There's been no update on that. They showed him in the dugout this weekend. But other than that, there's been no update. So if we're talking about September, look, if he gets back to the Braves by September, you map that out as possibly 4, maybe even 5 starts before the playoffs. And if he's pitching well, that's fine. But that is a big if. And I'm starting to get a little nervous when I'm like, all right, This team's good. This team's got their swatting the ball over the place, but everybody knows this. I'm not telling you anything new. Pitching is going to win you the World Series. The offense is going to put butts in the seat all year long. But pitching is going to win the World Series. Now, the Braves offense, if clicking, can win games by themselves in the playoffs, and I won't dispute that. But to win it all, you've got to not just bring in offense and think, well, if we've got a good bullpen, we'll get the lead, we'll shut it down. That's great in theory. When you get to the later part of October, the teams that are left in it are there because their pitching is that good. And it won't just be the starter, which you're going to have a hard time accumulating runs the first 4 to 5 innings. You don't believe me? Look at the over-under lines now. Just grab them. Jot them down and compare them to the over-under lines in the very beginning of October, middle of October. It's a full 2 to 3 runs less. I remember there were games last year, first pitch, you would look at the run line and it would be as low as 5.5, 6, and that's unheard of during regular season. So it tells you that runs are at a premium. They're at a premium because you're not scared to dump out your entire bullpen to go after a win, because you might end up punting game 2 as long as you can get game 1. Game 2, you're like, you know what? If we can get game 1 here, we're going to shut them down, and then we'll put the pressure on them, and maybe we get a great start in game 2. And that's how it can build on you. So let's just assume they don't need a starting pitcher. But if they did, some of the ones that I like for them to, first of all, can we scratch Ohtani off the board? Can people quit saying Ohtani? I mean, come on. We're not getting to Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani, you would have to gut your entire system. And I'm not talking about, we'd have to give up, name the 3 top prospects in the Braves organization. 4 top. No. You are getting rid of at least 1, if not 2 of your everyday starters right now to land Ohtani. He's not worth it. And then you're going to have to turn around and try to sign him to $750 million, what I think he's going to come home with. I think he's going to be somewhere around the $750 million, 11 or 12 years. It won't quite be $75 million a year, but it's going to be disgustingly close. And that sounds great when it comes to selling jerseys. I was watching the game last night, Houston and LA, and the Angels were on. It was really cool to see all the fans out there in the Angels market, where you could tell there were folks that had flown over to see Ohtani play. It was like a pilgrimage. And not to mention the fact, anyone who is already currently in the United States, either they have Japanese heritage or they are from Japan originally and have moved over here, we'll say the last 10, 15, 20 years, whatever. They were all rocking the Ohtani stuff. So if you sign Ohtani, the way you get your money back is your merchandise sales are going to be through the roof. Because in an entire country which just absolutely adores this man for good reason, they're going to want the new jersey of wherever he plays. That's going to be the LA Dodgers. And go ahead and end the suspense for you right now. The LA Dodgers didn't spend anything during this last offseason. They've got a good core locked up. They're going to make the playoffs, so that'll be the selling point to him. And they're going to go after Ohtani, and they're going to get him. He wants to be on the left coast, is what everybody says. And if you're Ohtani, there's only 2 options. The LA Dodgers are number 1, and maybe the San Francisco Giants, because the San Francisco Giants will spend money. But that's it. The Mariners find ways to lose all the time. They come in with an incredible roster this year and not lived up to expectations. He's already got that with the Angels if he wants that. We know he's not going to the A's. Maybe if the A's were in Vegas next year, yes, I could see them going all in and saying we're going to get Ohtani. But they're not. That's not happening. So let's put him to rest. I'm marking them off. Guys that are realistic for the Braves if they do go starting pitching. They're not going to get Marcus Stroman, and I'll tell you why. He's a clubhouse problem. He's also starting to show some cracks in the armor this year. He's had a very good season, but he's had a couple of starts here recently that's kind of scratches your head. But he has been a known cancer in the clubhouse. Braves are not bringing in that kind of guy. They want a guy. They want a Michael Harris in the clubhouse. They want an Ozzie Albies in the clubhouse. They want an Austin Riley in the clubhouse. They want guys that fans love, the players love, et cetera, et cetera. They're not going to let some guy come in who's going to be on the tail end of a contract, who may or may not give him his best. He's just not worth it. Guy that's still under contract for one more year, I'd be interested in this, but I don't think they would back it up with enough prospects, would be Shane Bieber. If Cleveland fell out of it in the next 2 weeks and became sellers and Shane Bieber became available, that would be the number one wish list for me. If we could get a Shane Bieber, I just don't think it's going to happen. So you move him aside, say, well, what is possible? Lucas Giolito. We didn't get a chance to see him in this series. Lucas Giolito of the White Sox has had a very good season. Lance Lynn showed you the other night he can go out there and be a pretty solid starter. Look, Lance Lynn's going to be a free agent, so you shouldn't have to give too much for him. And if you bring in Lance Lynn, he's really there just to eat innings towards the end. But I would love to see Lance Lynn come over and eat some innings towards the end. And then if he's pitching well, you never know. And he does have experience coming out of the bullpen. But a guy that I say, why not? Let's give it a shot. He's a lefty. You add that to the mix. He's pitched really well. He's had injury problems. It's why you don't want to give up a lot. But if you could find a way to bring in Erod, Eduardo Rodriguez of the Detroit Tigers, he's at the tail end of his contract. He would be a nasty lefty to deal, and he's got postseason experience. Remember, he was on that 2018 Red Sox team. So pretty much put a pin in that for now as far as the starting pitching. If you want to look at the infielders real quick, ones that you could bring in someone who could contribute off the bench, mind you, and give you competitive at-bats, and also could give some of these guys some days off. I mean, the wear and tear of playing middle infield with Ozzie and Arcia, along with the corners of Olsen and Riley, it's got to take some kind of a toll. I'm really shocked that we haven't seen more days off for these guys. We're in the middle of July. It's hot in Atlanta. Give them some days off so that they come back fresh. They started Hilliard yesterday, but that's only because of the whole Rosario is he or isn't he injured situation. But remember when they signed Hilliard and they kept him, and the biggest thing that the Braves wanted, his speed for base running in October. We get that. But the reason why he was chosen over some of the other options is because he has experience in all three outfield positions, and he has played first base. So why the hell not give him a day at first base every great once in a while and let Matt Olson either DH or just have the day off altogether? Because when they change their perspective, they normally come off the bench and play well. But these are some guys that will be there. First of all, I saw someone mention this on social media yesterday. We're not getting Salvador Perez. I know he's a good hitter. First of all, we've got two all-star catchers. Can we put that to rest? Salvador Perez, I don't really realistically think that that's an option. We need to add a guy to the bench that can play a little bit of everywhere. Tim Anderson, at the end of his contract, my biggest question to him would be, because he's had a bad year, would you be willing to come in and play a utility role for this team in October. I think he would jump at the chance. If you go off of what he said to Abreu at first base, was it a month or so ago? When everybody read his lips and he said, "I hate this place," talking about Chicago. So I think he would jump at the chance. The other guy, this would be if Cleveland fell out of the race once again, Ahmed Rosario. He was a part, for folks who don't remember him, he was a part of the trade of when the Mets sent Francisco Lindor, or got Francisco Lindor from Cleveland. They sent Rosario out there to Cleveland. Rosario can play all over the infield. Gleyber Torres. This is a guy defensively will do some stupid things. Offensively, he's pretty solid and he can play all over the infield if need be. So he's really more of a guy that I would want to bring on for at bats in the postseason when you're looking for a good at bat, and Gleyber Torres is it. And then the other guy that I would like to see given a chance, and my only question would be if you bring him in, who is your middle infielder on backup? Because you don't really have one. You can move some things around, but it's not ideal. CJ Cron of the Rockies. CJ Cron can bang it. He can play the corner infields. He can play the outfield. He is an interesting one. All right. So get that out of the way. There's one other guy that I would like to see because he can play everywhere. He can play the infield. He has started for several games at third base, first base. He would give you a right-handed bat in the outfield. I think y'all know where I'm going with this. He's one of us, baby. He's on a one-year deal on a team that's 9 games out of first place, though they are within puncher's chance of the All-Star, of the wild card. Who wouldn't want to see them bring back Adam Duvall? Adam Duvall's healthy. He was torrid start beginning of the year, then he got injured. He's solid now. What he was doing beginning of the year was like an all-star MVP type pace. But he's been healthy for a few weeks. I'd like to see Adam Duvall brought back. We're not getting Jorge Soler. He's on a team that's heading to the playoffs, or at least fighting for it. They're not getting rid of Jorge Soler. Plus, remember something, Jorge Soler has a player option for next year. And I just don't think it's in the cards for the Braves to be on. And please, can everyone stop talking about Jock Peterson? Jock Peterson's playing for a team that has one of the best records in baseball. He's right there at the wild card. San Francisco is not planning on trading Jock Peterson, but Adam Duvall is gettable. Relievers. Now, here are the relievers that I would like to take a stab at, and I've got a bunch of them. So let's go ahead and rattle them off. Number one that I have jotted down here is Daniel Bard. Daniel Bard is a right-handed reliever for the Rockies. And look, he's pitched in Colorado this year, and he's got a 2.20 ERA. He pitched phenomenally last year, too. Daniel Bard and the Rockies are out of it. The Rockies are going to be selling. And Daniel Bard is a free agent at season's end. He's very gettable. Very gettable. Next one up on the board, let's talk about Scott Barlow. Scott Barlow. He is playing for the Royals. And Scott Barlow this year has an ERA under 4. He's a right-handed reliever. He's arbitration eligible for the next couple of seasons, so I don't know if he's realistic to be able to get, because what may you have to give up? These deals that I'm talking about, I want to bring in guys that we're not going to have to give up much. They're for runs. Now, there's a couple of them that I'll say if we could get him, I don't mind giving up a little more than others. And one of the pieces that I'm ready to give up, I've seen enough. I'm not giving up on him as a person. I'm not giving up on his career totally. But for a team that is this close to another World Series championship, we didn't end this fantasy that any way, shape, or form, Michael Soroka is going to be a key part of that. Soroka, by the time he finally gets it all together, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent and cost what the Braves will never pay him. So what's the point of this? You trade him to someone else who needs an innings eater. Michael Soroka is fine for a team that's not planning on contending for a World Series title and wants to see what they might be able to get out of him. Maybe they could even talk him into an extension, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Michael Soroka is not cracking that starting rotation in any meaningful games anytime soon. And this is about winning the World Series. I know there's people out there love Soroka, hate to trade him. Probably some cheap SOBs who don't want to buy a new jersey. They bought his jersey back in 2019. Whatever your reasoning is, Michael Soroka is not the 2019 version. It has been 5 seasons, 4 calendar years since Michael Soroka was a dominant force in Major League Baseball. Pre-pandemic, before anybody knew what the hell COVID was, that's how long ago it was that the Michael Soroka was it. Okay, the next guy that I'm very interested in is Jose Cisnero from the Detroit Tigers. He is a right-handed reliever himself. We saw a little bit of him. He's got a 3.34 ERA this year, 37 strikeouts over 35 innings, and he will be a free agent at season's end. So I think he's a guy that we may be able to get. Now, this guy we would love to have. The problem is he's under team control until 2027. So I don't think he's realistic. But if they could get something, if they could get Jason Foley, 2.29 ERA. Jason Foley actually has 3 saves this year. And 36 strikeouts in 39 innings? Foley would be interesting. So then you've got Michael Fulmer of the Cubs. Michael Fulmer. He is a guy that has kind of banged around with the Tigers and the Cubs. He's got starting rotation experience, but he's a guy who's pitched much better in the bullpen. And he's a guy that you're not going to put in high leverage situations, but a guy that can eat some innings down the stretch. And he's making $4 million this year. He's a free agent at the end of the season. And it would not take much. It really wouldn't take much to get Michael Fulmer. The next guy I got on the list. Now, this guy would be a big want, and mainly because he is under team control through next year. But the Braves just saw him up close and personal. Kendall Graveman. Kendall Graveman was on the U.S. national team. Kendall Graveman was a part of the Astros championship team. Kendall Graveman this year has a 3.07 ERA, 41 innings pitched, 40 strikeouts. He's got 8 saves. He's not typically the closer. He was thrust into that because of the Liam Hendricks injuries and, of course, his illness beforehand. But Graveman would be in an outstanding setup. You talk about going from here to here at setup. If Nick Anderson becomes your 6th, 7th inning guy and Graveman becomes your 8th inning guy along with Minter, man, we are talking about a bullpen there. And he'd be under control through 2024. I would love to see Graveman. My biggest question is what in the heck are they going to want? Would they take Michael Soroka for Graveman? I would do that yesterday. Get lock sterile, but let's go. Let's go. He's got playoff experience. He throws hard. You saw him if you watched the game. He throws upper 90s, and once again, we were seeing him in the closing role. He's really a setup guy, and that would make him even more phenomenal. He's only 32, so next year he'll be 33. I would sign up for that. If I could pick one trade that I would like to see, give me Graveman, and I'll give you Soroka. And if they're good with that, I think it's a pretty even trade, to be honest with you. I'm taking that all day long. I'm taking it all day long. The next one on the list, we'll have to fire through these a little quicker. We'll do more of this on the other side. Chase Shreve, the left-hander from Detroit. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. He's really more of a left-handed specialist, but I wouldn't mind grabbing him as well. Now, there are going to be other guys that are going to become available in the next 2 weeks, but these are guys on teams that I know are going to be sellers. Merriweather of the Cubs, really good reliever. Problem is he's under control through 2026, and the Cubs are building, and I think the Cubs are building in the right way. And I don't think that they're going to trade Merriweather. I've just seen it. I've seen the rumors, so I feel like I have to touch on some of them. Brent Suter, another left-handed specialist. Tigers through 2023. I think I'd rather have Shreve, just I think you have to give less up. But he's a free agent at the end of the season. Shouldn't have to give up a lot. Then you got Lang of the Tigers. He is shut down closer type of stuff. He would immediately step in to the back end of the bullpen. The problem is he's under control through 2027, and that's just not realistic. Another guy, another veteran, my only question is, would he fit well in that locker room? Because I've heard rumblings before about he's kind of a jerk, much like Marcus Stroman, Joe Kelly of the White Sox. Kelly's under control through 2024. They'd probably like to get rid of him, but he is kind of a high asking price. Not just his salary, but do they overvalue him? I value Graveman much more than I do Kelly. Now, Kelly's been there in the past. Remember, Kelly was part of the 2018 Red Sox. He was a part of the Dodgers. He was the one. He was the one that kind of wore it on his chest and threw after the Astros after the trash can incident. That kind of stuff I do like, but you just wonder if he would mix in well or if he would be a problem. You don't want to bring a guy in that's going to go absolute coconuts and just screw up your entire team. But sometimes a little crazy's a lot cool when you're talking about bullpen guys. So there you have that. There's a couple more I wasn't able to get into. Now we'll get into the other side of the break. A couple more relievers that I believe will become available. We'll be back in a flash. Tones is on the way. We're going to talk a little more baseball, and we're going to hit up some of this NFL stuff. Along with today, we're going to talk about the Cubs curse and have some fun with that. We'll be back in a flash here on Braves Country today, 99.1 FM WQEE.
Armchair.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good afternoon, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. Good Monday afternoon as we take a look at the standings in Major League Baseball heading into about 2 weeks before the MLB trading deadline. We'll start in the National League East, where your Atlanta Braves have a commanding 9.5 game lead over the Miami Marlins, followed by the Philadelphia Phillies, 10.5 back. They won 3 of 4 this weekend versus San Diego, gaining a little ground on the Braves. Mets remain 18.5 back. Nationals 24.5. National League Central, Milwaukee Brewers have a 2-game lead over the Reds after sweeping them on the weekend. And in the NL West, they're going 3 wide into the corner. Dodgers lead the division with 53 wins, followed by the San Francisco Giants, a 1.5 game out. Arizona 2 back. In the American League, starting in the East, Tampa Bay has a 1-game lead over the Baltimore Orioles, 6 over the Blue Jays. Yanks and Sox are 9 games back. AL Central, Twins, 2.5 game lead over the Guardians, 6 over the Tigers. And in the AL West, Rangers, 55-39 on the year. They're 3 games up on Houston, 8 on Seattle, LA 9 out. Look at the wild card standings, as this will have a lot to do with the movers and shakers, the buyers and sellers in the next 2 weeks. In the National League wild card standings, San Francisco Giants and Miami Marlins are tied atop the standings for the 1 and 2 slots in the wild card race. The third and final slot is held by Arizona, who has just a half-game lead over the Philadelphia Phillies, 2 in front of the Reds. Padres, Cubs, and Mets are 8 and 8.5 back. In the American League, Baltimore Orioles sit atop the wild card standings, while the Toronto Blue Jays are 5 behind in the number 2 slot. Houston is a game back of that, grabbing the final slot in the wild card standings for the American League, 6 back of Baltimore. On the outside looking in, Red Sox 2 back, Yankees 2 back, Mariners 5, Angels 6, Guardians 6.5. Braves are taking the day off. We'll be back in action tomorrow night, pitch-by-pitch, play-by-play of your Atlanta Braves, right here on Braves Country HD. 7:20, the series begins against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Rest of Major League Baseball, you got a decent slate for a Monday. 7:45, Marlins are at the Cardinals. Luzardo versus Mikolas. It's a pick 'em on the money line, over under 8.5. 8:05 first pitch. The Nats are at the Cubs. Gore versus Smiley. Chicago minus 145. Dodgers are at the Orioles. Should be a heck of a showdown and a possible World Series preview. It's Sheehan versus Grayson Rodriguez, who is back up from the minors. He's 2-2 with a 7.35 ERA, but has been firing it lights out with a 1.69 in AAA since being demoted in early May. Guardians are at the Pirates. Curry versus Priester. Quinn Priester making his major league debut. Giants are at the Reds. Logan Webb Day. San Fran minus 145 going up against Williamson. Rays are at the Rangers. 8:05 first pitch. McClanahan versus Dunning. Tampa Bay minus 125 on the money line. Tigers at the Royals. Manning versus Lyles. Detroit minus 130. Yankees head out to Tinseltown. A 9:38 late first pitch on the West Coast. Severino versus Griffin Canning. Red Sox are at the A's at 9:40. Twins are at the Mariners. Sonny Gray versus Logan Gilbert. Over-under is 7. Seattle minus 135 on the money line. In case you missed it over the weekend, NFL news, DeAndre Hopkins agrees to a 2-year deal with the Tennessee Titans. And the Jacksonville Jaguars reach a 3-year deal with Evan Ingram, the tight end, who they had franchised. Joe Mixon restructures his deal to stay with the Bengals. Defensive lineman Malik Jackson, who spent 4 years with the Denver Broncos and 10 years altogether in the National Football League, he announced his retirement on the NFL Network this morning. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for Braves Country right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Newnan, Georgia, simulcasting on youtube.com at Braves Country.
Well, the season's finally here, and the players hit.
The Armchair Quarterbacks are back. Saturday, September 9th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., you'll be tailgating with the Armchair Quarterbacks. Mac Magee, Brian Snow, Joey and Tones, and the rest of the Armchair Quarterbacks live, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Saturdays this fall, talking college football, SEC, ACC, Big Ten, the NFL, fantasy football advice, and our picks against the spread. It all begins September 9th, right here on Braves Country HD, 99.1 FM, WQEE.
Yeah, the Armchair Quarterback, the All-American man.
It's baseball season now, but hockey will be back before you know it. Join the Columbus River Dragons as they celebrate the team's 5th anniversary season in 2023-24. Season tickets are on sale now with no price increase from last season. Lock up your favorite seat for every exciting moment. Call the River Dragons at 706-507-4625 or go online to rdragons.com. That's rdragons.com. River Dragons Hockey. Get fired up.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neal, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Fridays, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
Well, you can try the public pool, but... Oh, thank you. Thank you for your suggestion. We're out of here. Yeah. Let's go. Sir, I cannot believe that just happened in this day and age. I know. I can't believe there's such a big list. Don't you get it, dude? They'll always be at capacity for us. He called us lower class. He called us lower class? Yeah, but I wouldn't argue with that, dude. We're definitely lower class. Well, yeah, I'm not disputing that fact, dude. I'm saying we shouldn't get boxed out. Honestly, I just want to go swimming. Should we suck it up and go to the public pool? Gross, dude. I will not go to that disgusting public pool. People there are gross. Let's get out of here.
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks.
Welcome back, hour number 2, and Tones will be here in just a few moments, and I'm going to find out if he knows who this guy is. That's why I've got him up there. We are going to be talking about the curse that was and what may or may not have started. There's a lot of debate. On what started the actual curse of the Cubs. And of course, the famous one is the Billy Goat, but then there's a couple other things. So we'll get into that. Did want to jump on here and talk about what is crack-a-lacking in the world of sports, some things that you may or may not have missed. Let's go ahead and get into a couple of things. First of all, NFL news. DeAndre Hopkins signs a 2-year deal with the Titans, and the base salary for the first year is 12, could reach 15 with incentives, and then they're still trying to figure out all the numbers and details. But he will be signing a 2-year deal with the Titans. He announced it on, I don't know, Instagram, one of those things, and so, anyways, it came straight from him, and when it comes straight from the player, I'm more likely to believe it, unlike some of these John Heyman tweets, right? A couple other things. Jacksonville Jaguars locked down Evan Ingram to a 3-year deal. They had put him on the trading block. They had put him up for possible trade or possibly even a release, but he restructured his deal, so he's staying with the Cincinnati Bengals. The Red River rivalry is back, which will make no broadcaster happy because it's quite the tongue twister. No, I'm kidding. The fact they changed this to the Red River Showdown is just beyond me. AT&T was the sponsor for, I think they either said 2012 or 2014. Anyways, they're the ones that changed the name. And Allstate has brought it back to the Red River rivalry. I don't know if they thought Showdown was catchier or what the reasoning was. But anyways, whatever goofy reason they had, it is now over. So it's back to the rivalry. Hello to everybody in the chat. Did I see someone's put in there Juan Soto? Juan Soto? Braves are not getting Juan Soto. Who the hell is Juan Soto going to play for the Braves? Juan Soto plays about as good a defensive left field as Eddie Rosario. I'm just going to put it that way. I saw Juan Soto make 3 bad defensive plays in the last calendar week. And his bat is not what it was. And remember the laughable joke that is now? Beginning of last year, there was a real argument on who would you rather build your team around, Juan Soto or Ronald Acuna Jr. And most folks were taking Soto. I always said Acuna. I like the fact that he's just pure athletic ability. Now, it's a ridiculous argument. But anyways, back to the rest of the story, as they used to say. That's essentially what's going on in the world of sports, what's crack-a-lacking in the world of sports, in case you might have missed some of the things. And we did go over a couple of the other things earlier in the show, but I wish I could remember what show it was, but I was listening to something last week and I meant to bring it up, or maybe it was this weekend. And there was actually a long conversation. I was at work, so it must have been last week. And I couldn't get to the device that was playing my earbud, right? So I was stuck listening to what I was listening. It was the middle of working, and for folks who aren't familiar, I do chef work when you don't see me doing sports talk. But anyways, they were having a long, in-depth conversation about the WNBA three-point shootout, which I think took place on Friday. So maybe I was hearing this on Saturday morning. I don't remember. But anyway, I remember thinking, my God, make it stop. My ears are bleeding. The WNBA three-point contest, the NBA three-point contest isn't interesting. And these knobs were going on and on and on about it, detailing, breaking it down. They were breaking it down like it was a Zapruder film. Anyways, sometimes I hear bad stuff, and I have to make sure that y'all hear the ridiculousness too. Tony should be here any moment. When he gets here, we're going to talk about the Cubs. Of course, the other thing is, you see this about Johnny Bench. He had to apologize for an they're calling it an anti-Semitic jab, is how they're calling it. At the ex-general manager of the Reds. The Cincinnati Reds were having a Hall of Fame introduction, and it was former pitchers Danny Graves, Bronson Arroyo, and Bench was in attendance. I think the other was it was a manager, Gabe Paul. And, or were they talking about the G? No, I'm sorry. So they were, that's what it was. They were honoring Gabe Paul, and Danny Graves and Bronson Arroyo, were also going to the Hall of Fame. And Pete Rose recalled his first contract negotiation with Gabe Paul during this speech. And Pete Rose said, when I first got out of high school in 1960, Gabe Paul signed me to a contract worth $400 a month. And Jenny Paul quipped, that cheap. Then she paused. She said, never mind. Joking. And then Johnny Bench didn't say anything that was cursing or whatnot, but I still don't want to say it on air. Essentially, he let everybody know that he was of Jewish faith. And according to the report, it prompted laughter in the audience. Then he had to come back in and apologize, saying, I recognize my comment was insensitive, et cetera, et cetera. I would also like to point out, if you say something off color like that and terrible, the people in the audience, they should have to go up there and apologize too, shouldn't they? Because they laughed. Anyways, it's a little strange that Jenny didn't have to apologize. She's the one that kind of started that. But anyways, it is what it is. Let's go ahead and bring in Tampa Tones, and want to get his reaction to see if we got him in here. Tampa, how are you?
Good, brother. Gotta love traffic. Just kidding. Nobody likes traffic, but honored to be here on a Monday after a great weekend of baseball.
So we don't have much time to get into it because we're going to dive into the Cubs history, but I want to get your take on D-Hop going to the Titans.
I think that's a great move for Tennessee. I think that does make a foot in the ground sort of statement for Tennessee into a lot of haters and naysayers that say, the Titans might be packing it up this year. Well, they're doing the opposite of just that. You don't go out and get a guy like DeAndre Hopkins unless you think you could win games this year. And being in the AFC South, it's an obtainable goal, perhaps, getting another division title there. Even though they have Houston, even though Indy drafted Anthony Richardson, Tennessee getting DeAndre Hopkins should bode very well for their chances of not only making the playoffs, but perhaps winning that AFC South. And a team like New England has to be kicking themselves today. They are always thirsty for wide receivers. They could have offered Hopkins a little bit more, but here he is, a Tennessee Titan, tremendous deal for them, and it's not too expensive either.
It's kind of funny that I keep seeing all these, and I know what it is. It's Bristol, Connecticut, so they're ate up with the New England Patriots, and they talk about 4 things. We're past the NBA season, so you're going to get what's wrong with the Patriots, Aaron Rodgers, and now that Brady's retired, they're going to run out of content. But and then outside of that, I don't know. They'll probably talk about the New York teams a little bit more, along with Rodgers and the Giants. So, but the comments are saying that he should have went to the Patriots and the Patriots messed up and etc. On what earth do they think that signing with the Patriots and Mac Jones in that offense is better for him than Tannehill and Derrick Henry? I'm not saying Tannehill and Derrick Henry are going to go to the Super Bowl by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that team's going to be a little better than what the Patriots would have been.
Mm-hmm. And I think the more surprising thing is that they didn't right, and they didn't offer Hopkins more money. I think that's why a lot of Patriots fans are mad, because Tennessee gave him a pretty team-friendly deal, and I think New England fans are like, "Whoa, Bill, you gave Jonnu Smith 4 years, $50 million a while back. You could have gave your DeAndre Hopkins offer a little bit more thought." But I do agree, it's not like
12 this year, which isn't astronomical, but it is solid. And he's getting it's up to 15 with incentives, and they're very reachable incentives. So for all intents and purposes, he's making 15 this year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he's got on the second end, because Diana Rossini has not officially put her name on it, so to speak. But anyway, I just found the whole thing strange that people are acting like it's not like he turned down going to the Chiefs for the same money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're talking about playing with Mac Jones and a tailback by committee.
Yeah, I agree. I think Titans do give him just as good, or not, of a better shot of winning, and I think that they have a very superior division right now in terms of winnability as well. So I do agree, it puts them in a better chance to make the playoffs in Tennessee.
I mean, I just say we call a spade a spade. Belichick was bailed out year after year after year because they were cheap with the money. They made a lot of poor decisions, but they had Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing the same thing now. He doesn't have Tom Brady, and unless Mac Jones turns into the second coming, they're going to be middle of the rung team. I don't think he'll ever get fired, and I really think that he's going to hold on much longer than he should have, much like Pop did. The difference is Popovich can turn his thing around because the NBA is an individual sport. The National Football League is a team sport.
Yeah, definitely.
So if Wembanyama ends up being, the cat's meow, he can turn that around pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. You can't do that in the NFL.
I agree with that, yeah.
Who the hell wants to live in New England over Nashville anyways?
Nobody.
In fact, let's also call it out. Tennessee doesn't have a state income tax. So did that play into effect? I guarantee it did.
Yeah, definitely had to play a little factor, at least nowadays, with how expensive everything's getting, even for people with a lot of money. So,
and if he is thinking about a couple of things, number one being his Hall of Fame resume, it's a lot easier path in the AFC South than it is in the AFC East right now.
Oh, yeah, and, another thing is the Patriots of Bill O'Brien. Maybe he didn't want to play with him again.
Right, and he did have a very good relationship with Vrabel. And from everything I've ever heard, Vrabel is a player's coach.
Mm-hmm.
They love playing with. They'll go through the wall for him, mainly because he's not that far removed from playing himself. But I think there's just a ton of respect from players, and everyone in the league with him. Not that Bill O'Brien is, some terrible person to play for, but I'm just saying, I think that helped. And Hopkins going, do I go to Nash Vegas or do I go freeze my balloons off up there in Foxborough and have to pay all the ridiculous taxes? I mean, to me, it was a no-brainer. I wish it took him that long.
I think so. When we put the pieces together, it really seems more and more clear where he should have ended up. And to me, out of those two choices, it was the right spot.
And as his career declines, if he's producing, Vrabel will take care of him. Vrabel will make sure that he gets. It won't be some magnificent deal, but he won't get left out to dry. Assuming he doesn't come in and become the next Julio Jones.
Exactly.
Not the Julio Jones who was in Atlanta, the Julio Jones that was in Tennessee and Tampa and everywhere else. All right, let's take a quick break, Tones. Smoke them if you got them. When we come back, we're going to talk about the curse of the Chicago Cubs and what it meant and finally turning it around. We'll be back in a flash here on Braves Country. Keep it locked in here. I'm not quite sure what I hit, but thank you for the applause.
You're a cop, huh? No, what I am, Sonny, is about 50 pounds heavier and one hell of a lot meaner, so you better straighten up your act. I don't think I like it.
The Dixie Handle Company, 5 generations of the Strickland family, have produced quality hardwood farm and garden tools, wooden shutters, and custom furniture. This small business has been owned and operated since 1992 and ships to customers across the world. If you're looking for the highest quality tool handles, Dixie Handle Company is your place. Every item is hand-picked to your specifications. If it's made of wood, they do it. Call now, 931-722-3395. That's 931-722-3395. Or go online to DixieHandle.com. The Dixie Handle Company. Welcome to Craftsmanship, a proud sponsor of Braves Country Baseball.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
Wendy's only makes one kind of breakfast, your new favorite one. How do we do it? With fresh cracked eggs, oven-baked bacon, and flaky croissants. You know, the things your old breakfast wasn't doing. So toss that old news and its soggy eggs somewhere useful. And get to Wendy's. A sausage, egg, and Swiss croissant, bacon, egg, and Swiss croissant, and honey butter chicken biscuit. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's.
The price and participation may vary at U.S. Wendy's.
Well, the season's finally here, and the players hit.
The Armchair Quarterbacks are back. Saturday, September 9th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You'll be tailgating with the Armchair Quarterbacks. Mac Magee, Brian Snow, Joey and Tones, and the rest of the Armchair Quarterbacks live 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Saturdays this fall. Talking college football, SEC, ACC, Big Ten, the NFL, fantasy football advice, and our picks against the spread. It all begins September 9th right here on Braves Country HD, 99.1 FM WQEE.
Yeah, the Armchair Quarterback, the All-American man.
Hey, Braves Country. Braves Country HD is bringing you Braves Country Baseball. Braves Country comes to you every Tuesday night and Friday night, and 2 bonus games every week. Hi, I'm Mac Magee. We'll be bringing you play-by-play, pitch-by-pitch of your Atlanta Braves. It's free to listen. Please like and subscribe. YouTube.com/@Braves Country. Braves Country Baseball for the fans, by the fans.
You're in Braves Country.
All right, Braves Country. Let's get into the curse that was. Chicago Cubs fans like Tones, and I'm sure many generations that you are related to and lived around and whatnot, tons from the Chicago area. I thought this would be a fun one to put together in our Once Upon a Pastime series and talk about the curse that was. Now, do you have any idea who that is on your screen? I don't think most people would recognize him.
That's not Mordecai Brown, is it?
No. He was kind of a husky fellow. Three Fingers Brown, you mean?
Yep.
What a wild story that guy had. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about him today. But for folks who don't know about Mordecai Three Fingers Brown, he cut a couple of fingers off in a farming accident. Anyways, helped his spin on his pitches, and the rest is Hall of Fame history. That is Fred Merkle of the New York Giants.
Oh, yeah.
And though I believe a lot of folks always point to the Cubs curse starting in 1945 with the Billy Goat, et cetera, Giants fans, a lot of National League fans pointed to Fred Merkle as the beginning of the end. So take you back to 1908 real quick, y'all. In September against the Cubs and the New York Giants and the New York Giants and the Chicago Cubs were in a pennant race, a true pennant race, not like we have today where you win the pennant, you go to the World Series, you don't win the pennant, guess what, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a play in a critical game against the Cubs on September 23rd, 1908, towards the end of the season, where the short of it is Fred Merkle was standing on first. There was a ball hit to the outfield. The winning run scored for the Giants. Because Merkle never ran and touched second base because the crowd came onto the field in celebration, eventually the Cubs wrestled a ball away. There's still an argument on whether or not it was the real ball, but they found a ball and came running up and they touched second base. And of course, this is before video, so you go off a lot of people's accounts. They touched second base after Merkle had not touched second base, and making it a forced play. They got a ruling from the umpire that day because they did something very similar had happened a few weeks earlier. They called the game no contest, replayed the game. Cubs won. They ended up winning the pennant because of that play, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Had they ruled that he was safe and the run had scored, the Giants would have won the division. The Cubs go on to win the 1908 World Series, and that was the last World Series they won until 108 years later with 2016, which most folks remember at this point. The other thing was the Billy Goat. Do you want to go over the Billy Goat?
Yeah, so the Billy Goat, interestingly enough, McGee, and to me, the coolest thing about the Billy Goat actually stems from the owner of the Billy Goat and the story he made from it. So the owner was William Cianis, and that's a key name around here because the Billy Goat actually led to, we'll get into the curse of the Billy Goat on the field in a minute, but there's actually a Billy Goat Tavern nowadays as well in the Chicagoland area. They got a chain of Billy Goat Taverns, and it's from the owner of the original Billy Goat that he brought to the game as well. So I thought that was interesting. And they have good food and tasty drinks, man. So a little bit of history about the owner of the Billy Goat there who brought the Billy Goat. But the Billy Goat is curse, obviously, as you alluded to. 1945 it took place. And, this is where you get the name Murphy Bleachers Bar out there and other things named Murphy. As the owner, William Cianis, his pet goat, was named Murphy. And during Game 4 of the World Series, Murphy the goat was bothering other fans and just kind of causing a riot. in Game 4 of the World Series. Could you imagine, McGee, being in your chair and just seeing a goat and seeing a rambunctious goat at that? I mean, you're in a baseball stadium, right? So pretty interesting stuff there. So obviously the ushers and attendants at the game say, hey man, you got to get yourself and your goat out of here. You've been disrupting enough people at this point in time. So then Cianis, the owner of the Billy Goat, outraged, stormed out of there and said, you guys will never win again. The Cubs won't win anymore. You're kicking me and my pet out of here. This is bananas. You guys aren't going to win.
Imagine bringing a goat to a game and expecting to get in.
Right. How did they let him in?
It was a different time. It was a different time.
It's crazy that they got in to begin with. So,
right.
Like imagine.
How dare you kick my goat out? How dare you bring a damn goat? What are you talking about?
Even in modern day baseball, bringing your dog to the game, I think they only have, one day a year where you can bring your dog? This average Joe, William Cianis, is
that and it's advertised.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah.
They normally call it Bark in the Park, and all the stadiums tend to do it. I want to say the Braves do it twice a year. They do it one in the spring and one in the summer. The one they pick in the summer is usually like bloody hot. Like everyone's like, I don't want to go to the stadium. All right, well then go ahead and bring your dogs in. Have them all pass out from heat exhaustion. Because it's always a Sunday afternoon. Because we've always talked about going and taking our dog to the game, but it's just never going to happen. It's a Sunday afternoon, in the sun's high in the sky, 1,000 degrees, and they're usually playing like the Royals or something. Like it's never got like we're not driving all the way up there to do that now.
Correct. Yeah, I don't blame you.
Finish up because I got something about that Billy Goat Tavern that I want to add.
Yeah, absolutely. So yada yada yada. Long story short, many interpreted William Cianis saying the Cubs will never win again, meaning a National League pennant ever again for as long as he lived. So to follow that up, the Cubs lost the 1945 World Series to the Tigers, and obviously they weren't in another World Series until just 2016, and they had a couple of chances along the way as well. 1969 against the Mets, the Cubs lost the Black Cat pennant game. Remember that? That was crazy. And then in 1984, the Cubs' first postseason appearance since 1945, the Padres took them out. The Bill Buckner incident where the ball went in between his legs with the Red Sox. He was on the Cubs and the Red Sox. So just a lot of, 1998, Sammy Sosa was the MVP, but then they were swept later in that postseason. The 1989, the Giants beat them after the Cubs won. In 2001, the Cubs lost to the Cardinals. We all know what happened with the Marlins and the whole Steve Bartman thing. So McGee, it was just time and time and time again, even through 07 and 08 with the Lou Piniella days, 2015 when the Cubs got swept by the Mets. There was just a lot of weird instances throughout all of those games. And the Mets was first baseman in 2015 was named Daniel Murphy, and he joked, not the first GOAT named Murphy to end the Cubs postseason hopes. Of course, the Billy Goat was named Murphy as well.
Yeah, so one of the things, as we'll dive into a lot of the stuff that you just kind of laid out there. So first of all, this Billy Goat Tavern, I find it very interesting. So it opened up in 1934, because when I first read about this story, I never dove into the Billy Goat Tavern until a few days ago. And I was curious, did he open the tavern because of the Billy Goat, or was this already? No, it was already a thing. Been open 11 years. And evidently he opened it on a bounce check. $205. He bought the tavern, and the proceeds that he made that weekend covered the bounce check in time to be able to stay in business, right?
That's insane.
The funny thing is this: in 1944, evidently Chicago was the home of the 1944 Republican National Convention. And he drummed up business by putting a huge sign in the window that said "No Republicans Allowed," and evidently they flooded the damn bar demanding service. So I don't know what his actual political standings was, if this was just reverse psychology. I don't know. But anyways, it worked, and it kind of put him on the map. And then the next year, they're in the World Series, and the rest is history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something to be mentioned about that curse. So in 1908, you had the Merkel boner, the big controversy. The Cubs had won back-to-back World Series. It was 1907 and 1908.
Yes.
They make the pennant. They win the pennant in 1910, lose to the Red Sox. 1918, lose to the Babe Ruth Red Sox. That's a famous Red Sox team that it was the final championship team for the Red Sox for many years.
Mm-hmm.
In 1929, they win the pennant, but lose to the Yankees. Of course, this is 2 years after the 27 Yankees. This is one of the greatest runs in sports history. In 1932, a lot of folks remember the called shot. A lot of folks don't remember it. It took place in Wrigley Field against the Yankees. Babe Ruth's famous called shot that a lot of folks think that he did. A lot of folks says that he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like one of the famous sports writers said, of all the people that contend one way or the other, if Babe Ruth actually called that shot against the Cubs, the sheer number of people that claim they were at that stadium, he famously said, I forget the sports writer's name, but he said, if as many people were at that stadium watching that game as they have told me in my lifetime, Wrigley Field would seat 500,000 people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, there's always someone saying, "Oh, I saw it. Oh, I didn't see it. No, he didn't do it. Yes, he did do it." But still, this is all leading up to the 1945 World Series with the Billy Goat. By the way, Billy Goat was named Murphy for folks that are wanting to cure it. And I do wonder if that was intertwined with Murphy's Law. I haven't seen anything on that, but it is interesting. That's why he possibly named it that. But then it's like you were laying out. So you get past 1945 and he's throwing the curse. And he's saying they're never going to play in the World Series again. Never going to World Series. There's a lot of argument on whether or not he meant in his lifetime, or if he meant ever, or if he meant as long as they were in Wrigley Field. And if you ask 5 people, they'll give you 7 different answers. But anyways, it's interesting that there was already a curse that was little talked about with Fred Merkel's boner. But once the Billy Goat thing happened, then everyone started talking, well, they've already been cursed.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Before that, it was, man, they've been really good and just couldn't get to the championship. Billy Goat thing happened. All of a sudden, Fred Merkel's curse pops up. So, laid out all that, I want to take you to 1969.
Mm-hmm.
The famous Shea Stadium event where the Mets, who were the terrible Mets at this time.
The
Black Cat walks in front of Ron Santo on, I think I have a picture of it. The Ron Santo is standing on deck, and I believe I have it. Give me 1 second, I'll find it. But yeah, here it is. Okay. And he's standing on deck, and they share. Let me go ahead and share this for you real quick. He's standing on deck, and then out of nowhere, here comes Santo, Black Cat, and of course, the Black Cat curse. That thing, that's something a lot of people don't talk about today.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, it was a thing. People really believed in these types of things.
Mm-hmm.
So this Black Cat walks in front of the dugout, in between Santo and the Cubs dugout, and the Cubs end up collapsing in September. Mets go on to win the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
1984. I don't know how familiar you are with all this stuff because it's a little before your time. 1984, they play the San Diego Padres, in the NLCS. They're up 2-0. I remember I was pulling for the Cubs because back then you got TBS at night, you got the Cubs during the day. And so the Cubs at that point, as a kid, they were my second favorite team. Shortly after that, I was not allowed to watch them because my grandfather was like, we're watching doubleheaders all day long. You got to go out and do chores. All right, fair enough. But at that time, I was still sneaking in there watching the Cubs during the day. And so not only are they up 2-0, best of 5 series goes back to the West Coast, and the Cubs lose the next 3 games. And in Game 5, Leon Durham, the first baseman, botches an easy ground ball that leads to a 4-run inning that won them Game 5. But before that, the Cubs had the lead. Now, how does this intertwine with other things? 84, Leon Durham. People were talking about that for a couple of years until Bill Buckner, who was an ex-Chicago Cub, was on the Boston Red Sox, and he had a very similar play happen to him that everybody still talks about this day. Leon Durham's lucky that Bill Buckner came along and did what he did in the World Series, or people would still be talking about Leon Durham's botch in the NLCS. The other thing that saved him, too, was all those games were being played during the daytime. So not as many people saw them.
Correct.
And then you get, what was the next one that I had? Okay, the Bill Buckner. And then 1989, this isn't really curse-like, but I do think that when you're a fan of a team, and our buddy the fireman that comes on the show from time to time, he's been a diehard Cubs fan for as long. We grew up friends just before high school, and he was a Cubs fan then. I was a Braves fan then, and that hasn't changed. And he became a Cubs fan. The reason why I'm a Braves fan is because you got it on the Superstation, right? I think what it came down to, I want to say his parents wouldn't let him watch TV at night, but he could watch the Cubs during the day when they weren't there, right?
Right.
So everyone's got a reason why they like their team. But anyways, they are up, or they are tied 1-1, leaving Wrigley, heading to San Francisco. And back then you played the first 2, and then you would play 3. And then I think they had just gone to the 7-game series in the NLCS. Before that, it was best of 5. That had only been like a few years, right? So all they had to do was win 1 game to get it back to Wrigley. They lose every one of those games in which the bullpen blew the damn game. Games 3, 4, and 5, the bullpen blew the game every single game. And then I do know that you're old enough to remember the Bartman.
Oh, Steve Bartman.
So can you take us through what you were thinking at the time? What was going through your mind as a young lad, Cubs fan, so damn close, and then the Steve Bartman play?
I actually remember my parents being at the game, and I was dropped off at my grandma's house by my parents in my Cubs stuff, watching the game with my grandma, who was a lifelong Cubs fan, my brother as well, and my aunt. And we were just kind of sitting watching TV. And for those Cubs fans out there that know, and that, they know this, before the Bartman play happened, Alex Gonzalez, the Cubs shortstop, let a routine grounder get by him, and he had a very good fielding percentage that year. Ground ball gets past him. Couple pitches later, the Bartman thing happens, and I think the crowd is already so mad.
I think everybody's forgotten that Alex Gonzalez thing.
Yep, everybody's forgotten him because everyone was so mad from that. Everyone was so fierce from that Moises Alou helped feed the Bartman beast, because Moises Alou goes into the stands, puts his glove up. Bartman is actually listening to the game. Steve Bartman is listening to the game in his earphones and watching the game. So in his ear, the volume is a couple seconds behind. So he doesn't even realize what he does initially until a couple seconds pass. Bartman reaches up, and the ball goes into his hands right over the outstretched Moises Alou, our left fielder at the time's glove. And Moises throws his glove to the ground, starts throwing a temper tantrum, points at Bartman, saying, "What are you doing?" You could tell every other word out of Moises' mouth is a cuss word. Now, physics to this date will say he probably didn't even have the best of chance at catching the baseball, Moises Alou, but the reaction from Alou, the heat that Alou gave to Bartman, the importance of that play after Luis Gonzalez or after Alex Gonzalez's error, it just built up so much anger, so much frustration in this big of a game that Bartman was a scapegoat. Bartman ultimately had to leave the game. And like I said, it wasn't until a couple seconds after the play happened where he started looking around and he's going, "Me?" And the fans around him are going, "Yeah, buddy." Sadly, it doesn't look like it's going to end.
So bad for this guy. I mean, I'm telling you, man. So by then, I'm not a Cubs fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I was pulling for Chicago because I didn't want the Marlins to win.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want the Marlins to win because I was still sore over 97, where Livan Hernandez strike zone was the size of the panhandle.
Mm.
So I was still like, nah, I know, I'm done, man. No. Let's go. Come on, Cubs. And I really also wanted to see, I think something that a lot of people forget about that whole thing. I wanted to see the Cubs and the Yankees in the World Series, which is who was awaiting the National League winner.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, that would be incredible.
Yeah.
For not only for the Cubs to be able to have a chance to break their curse, but what if they did it against the Yankees?
Oh, man.
Because this was this 03? Yeah, this is 03.
Yep.
This was the year before. So the Red Sox curse still was, remember that was the same week that, as they say, Aaron Stinkin' Boone hit that home run against Wakefield. Was it Wakefield?
Yep, Wakefield.
He drew in too long. I don't know. Anyways, he hit that home run to send them to the World Series, and everyone was. I mean, they were just up in arms. They what was the guy's name they fired? Grady Little. So all that was going on the same week as this ridiculousness takes place.
Mm-mm. And I just can't believe that, my parents were actually at that game, and took them a while to recover, especially my pops. It was just one of those things that was such a brutal loss for Cubs fans. And again, Bartman, that baseball ended up going for thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the guy who won it blew it up. He blew up the baseball, the whole Bartman baseball, after paying like hundreds of thousands of dollars for it. It's like, you can't make this stuff up. It's crazy.
Right, which I thought was a little goofy, but I mean, I guess you got the right to do with whatever you want to do with it, but I thought the whole thing, I don't know.
I agree with
I
you.
like the idea of destroying, even if it's bad history. I don't like the idea of destroying history.
No, and the other interesting thing is, quick to allude to it, you brought up the Bill Buckner thing. Some people might be wondering, well, wasn't Bill Buckner on the Red Sox when he let that ball between his legs? Yes, but the funny thing is, and the crazy thing is, Bill Buckner was wearing, he got traded from the Cubs to the Red Sox, and he kept his Cubs batting gloves, and he was wearing a Chicago Cubs batting glove underneath his baseball fielding glove when he let the ball go through between his legs. And that's why people think that
I can't remember people talk. There was an article out at the time or something that I remember they were calling it the double curse. They're basically saying you can't put Red Sox and Cubs in in the same glove. Something is bound to happen terribly.
Mm-hmm.
Which obviously is a bunch of nonsense, but now I still say that I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little stitious. I don't know if I'm mixing Red Sox and Cubs and hoping two negatives are not going to always make a positive. no matter what they tell you.
Yeah, especially with these historic quote unquote curses, right? I mean, as you said, there was some nasty Red Sox and Cubs moments, and both overcame eventually, but it took him forever.
Yeah, so they see there's a couple other things that another one for Braves fans. Braves fans probably don't remember this. And I don't think I wouldn't call it curse like, but it was in the footnotes of all the stuff that I read. 1998, the home run chase, Sammy Sosa wins the MVP for the National League, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, still, how insane is that Sosa won the MVP, but McGwire got the home run record? That's a different argument for a different day.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all excited heading to the playoffs, and then they get swept by the famous 98 Braves, that the song was written about, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't look at that curse like, because I don't think that Cubs team was that great, but it still adds to it. And then 2004, the year that the Red Sox reversed their curse, and this is the year after the Bartman incident, the Cubs had a 2.5 game lead in the wild card on September 25th.
Mm-hmm.
They blew a lead and lost in extra innings on that day to the Houston Astros. They ended up losing 6 of their last 8 games, didn't make the playoffs. The Astros got the wild card, and they went on to go to the World Series, winning the NL pennant. And obviously, they faced that was it's so crazy that all this stuff happened at once. But that was the year in 2004, or was that 2005? I guess that was 2005. That the White Sox went on to win the World Series against the Astros.
Mm-hmm.
So you had the Bartman incident in 2003 that was, curse. 2004, the Red Sox reversed the curse. 2005, the Black Sox do the same. And now you're still sitting around going, well, dude, when is it the Cubs' turn? Like, what the hell's going on here?
And then we brought in Lou Piniella, and people thought they were going to be saved, and not much changed. A lot of choking continued.
The other thing that gets lost in the mix right there, too, is if you remember during that time period, and everyone chalked it up to the curse, which is just ridiculous, but Kerry Wood strikes out 20 Astros. And then it was his arm just fell off, along with Mark Pryor. Their arms just fall off after the 2003 season that they, I guess it was 2004 on, that they just turned into absolute just jello.
Yep, and a lot of people attribute Dusty Baker into over pitching those type of guys.
Oh, he absolutely did.
I think so
I don't
as well.
know if I blame him, because it was a different time period. No one thought about pitch count back then.
I agree with that statement completely.
But it was definitely you'd already seen Dusty Baker do some other dumb things when he had Barry Bonds and the Giants and whatnot. So you're already going, I don't know. Does this guy know what the hell he's doing? What's going on here?
There were another crazy aspect of it. How many former Cubs ended up winning World Series during the Billy Goat era? I believe there were 45 or more players, including some minor leaguers that they traded. Ryan Dempster, Dontrell Willis, Mark Grace, Mark Bellhorn. There were a lot of guys who were on the Cubs for the thick of their career, including Joe Girardi. And then as soon as they left the Cubs, it seemed like they were on their way to a championship. It was just the craziest thing. And then big free agents would come to the Cubs and they would do nothing, like an Alfonso Soriano. He had one good year, but just it was real.
All right. 2016 hits. And just as we put a bow on this, the emotions that had to been going through. And the craziest thing about that World Series, this was also the Cleveland Indians at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Not the Guardians. They were the Indians at the time.
Yep.
So don't at me. And Indians, Cubs come down to the final World Series game, which was an incredible game. Aroldis Chapman, I don't think, gets enough credit for that championship.
I agree.
But the stage is yours, sir. Tell me what was going on in Wrigleyville.
Man, I remember it was just being crazy. It was being mayhem down there. The Cubs were down 3-1 in the series, McGee. You know as well as I do. That is really important. Yeah, I mean, everyone thought it was over. Even some of us Cubs fans, we were holding out hope, obviously, but the realisticness of winning something like that against a team like the Indians, they won game 7, 8-7 in 10 innings in Cleveland. That was a cooler thing either. And I just remember I was in college at the time. I was about to graduate. And I just remember, man, I had some important stuff to do, but I halted all the meetings. I'm like, I'm watching this game. I'm not missing a sliver of it. And there was a little bit of a delay in that game as well, if I remember correctly. So it delayed it. The Cubs won it in the middle of the night. And I just remember when that ball hit Anthony Rizzo's mitt at first base, I was just sitting there thinking to myself, man, I was so cheesy. I was so happy after living through the Bartman thing, after living through the Sosa era, the Lou Piniella era. I thought we'd maybe never see the day. And then being down 3-1 to Cleveland, I'm like, man, are we really going to blow this? And McGee, the coolest part about it was my grandma was alive through the Billy Goat curse era. All she kept saying, she wanted a Cubs World Series. They ended up winning that year, and my grandma passed a few months after she got to see them win a World Series. Truly crazy.
A bittersweet ending, right?
Exactly. She got to see her team win and the curse lifted.
Yeah, I can remember so many people that were, you would see video of, generations dancing in the street and whatnot. I just thought that was, as a baseball fan, not necessarily a fan of the Cubs, but there's something. When I was a child, I did watch a lot of Cubs baseball, and it was cool to watch as not a fan, but as a fan of not only the sport, but also cool to see the Cubs. The only thing that got me, there was a friend of mine, and I'll never forgive her for putting this on social media. She has been a diehard Cardinal fan as long as I've known her, 20 plus years. And she was celebrating the Cubs championship. I'm like, that's a little too much, okay? That's a little too much.
That's a no-no in my book.
Oh, that's a huge no-no.
Mm-hmm. I don't care what curse it's been.
I can excuse any other fan base.
I agree with that.
Yankee fans were not looking in 2004 finally, man, they got it off the monkey off their back. Hell no. They were like, we got to go out and get more money. We got to crush their hopes.
Oh, man.
Real quick, what's your walk-off?
Walk-off is this. Lock of the day, Pirates plus 1.5. It's minus 145. They're home against the Guardians, 7:05 Eastern time.
All right, my walk-off will be, we'll have to edit that crap out. So we will see you tomorrow. And Tuesday, Braves are back at it. Tones knows exactly what I'm talking about. Tuesday, we're back at it. And we're going to start the series with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And Joey will be on. We'll be talking some football, all that kind of stuff. Have a great day, y'all.
Have a great one, Mac.
Goodbye, sweetheart, well, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart, goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same back time, same back channel.
Thanks for listening to Braves Country Baseball. With Mac Magee, we're proud to bring you year number 3. Braves Country Baseball comes your way Tuesdays and Friday nights and 2 more bonus games for a total of 4 games a week. You can also catch Braves Country, our daily sports talk show. We go live 3 to 5, 99.1 FM WQEE, Metro Atlanta. Other CBS, ESPN, and independent affiliates nationwide, and simulcast on youtube.com/@BravesCountry. Find Braves Country HD today wherever you stream. Your first choice for Southern sports and the deepest bench in sports talk.
Something of the 5th of September. Something of the 5th of September. She said a lot that I can't remember. Something of the 5th. Can I get another cigarette, please? Can I get another cigarette, please? Yeah, I know I live to regret it. Just give me another cigarette, please.